Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today? Good. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things we're talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. They'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We
It's
have
time to
arrived.
demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand
First
the
Contact
truth.
Radio.
Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Friday has arrived. Today it is the 18th. Our moon is in Aries. In just right about now, we have this sign taking place, which is a square between Aries, our moon sign, and Jupiter expansion. So Aries is about pioneering efforts, new beginnings, and we're expanding, a square between expansion of what are we going to do, okay? The odds, between what it is, our ideas, and what it is, the expansion of what we want to do is there. And so it kind of can fit in, like we have all these ideas and things we want to do in life, but we're challenged to which way to go because there is so much instability. So even though things are expanding outward and we want to be able to expand outward, we're still having that challenge. So it's something that we're all kind of learning from. We have a lunar eclipse later this afternoon, full moon lunar eclipse. So those always bring interesting times of introspection for others, and the full moon certainly brings a lot of emphasis on the moon sign of Aries, pioneering, create effort, tarot card of the Emperor, he who sets in order. It's the organizer of the universe, Aries. Right, and our sun sign is still the same for just a little bit yet, and that is a sun sign in Libra, which is air. So we have an air sign and a fire sign. Air and fire can work well together if they're both in balance. Otherwise, the air could blow the fire out, or the fire could make the air really hot and things could get burned up. So it's important that the air and the fire work together. Our words and our actions is the air, and fire is ideas. So we want to make sure that they're in synchronicity. A moon phase, as I said, is a full moon, 100% of the way there. Mayan Oracle, beginning of a new wave spell these next 13 days. Follow along with the theme of the star. The star is all about beauty and elegance, shining our light bright. So today, because it's the first day, the kin and the guide are the same. So today would be the magnetic star, guided by the star. Like-minded energy is the monkey, challenge is the mirror, hidden power is the skywalker. Phrase for today is I unify in order to beautify, attracting art. I seal the store of elegance with the magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by my own power doubled. Spaceweather, 380.4 kilometers per second is our solar wind at the moment. Planetary K-index is between the 1 and the 2. Coronal hole, we still see the big one right there. Sending wind out. Our M-class flare possibility is the same, but it does drop within the next 24 hours. And our geomagnetic storm activity is pretty low as well. Today's report by suspicious observers is right here. Here we go.
Good morning, folks. We're starting today in southeastern Australia, New South Wales, Sydney. Wildfires, bushfires, high wind, spreading, burning, encroaching into metro areas. There are lots of evacuations, and I understand it's doing a bit better this morning, but Rural Fire Service map will keep you updated. Its websites appear to be the best way to stay informed for locals and for the rest of us who've taken notice from across the globe. As I said last night, our hearts are with you. Got a full moon in just a few hours, but there's much more to it than that. It's an eclipse, and it's visible for almost everyone except for the Central and West Pacific. Europe gets a dead perfect shot at midnight, while the Americas will need to take notice after dinner. The lineup is adding to a number of seasonal and annual factors to create higher tides than usual. Parts of Florida are now flooding every day. The eyewitness accounts on RSOE are worth checking out. Bruce Gary's ISON tracking will continue. He continues to explain his frustration, but also what seems like a little warmth sneaking into his heart from the thousands of people begging him to stay. He's added a part for lay people, which I find as informative as anything else on the page. And boy, did he step up the colorized picture work. As always, it's a daily check for me. Folks, I have to say the loss of these rainfall maps and the government shutdown was as painful as the loss of HelioViewer. This is NASA's tracking and warning system for accumulation, flood risks, landslides, extreme events, etc. As I toggle from rainfall to rainfall accumulation, take note of India and Vietnam. Quite a rough week for this part of the globe, and for some reason, this area is also showing off-the-charts ionospheric readings. This is very unusual. Solar wind, still on the calming trend. Solar flares sticking to their middle-of-the-road flaring. The departing group looking even more diabolical as it heads away. Why don't you go get a look at ISON, big guy? Light 'em up. But seriously, the focus does turn to the incoming groups. Developers are popping all over, but we still have the primary umbral groups, lacking any magnetic mixing down south. Can't quite see all the incomers up north, but does look promising, yes? Speaking of promising, is this the American sunspot returning? I'd call it Texas size, but it's bigger than Jupiter, so yeah. Brody, Shadow River, may have your work cut out for you this weekend. Coronal hole power, down to moderate the last 24 hours and a bit unstable. Note that we had no bigger quakes, just some rumbles in Utah and the Caribbean that were above average. The fly-on-the-wall format evening news will be repeated tonight with a focus on the government's climate lies. If you still have website issues, it's your browser, cache, or cookies. Send me a PM if you're signed in and still having trouble. Got a filament eruption, surface events, weather highlights, and other shots of our star to close. Eyes open. No fear, it's 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and that's the news. Be safe, everyone.
All right, very good. So today, I thought that I felt like the Sphinx. So this is Graham Hancock, and this is Graham Hancock talking about the Sphinx controversy. Here we go.
When we say the word Sphinx, we're actually speaking the ancient Egyptian language, because Sphinx is a corruption through Greek of the ancient Egyptian phrase Sheshep Ankh. And Sheshep Ankh means living image, living image. But the question is, whose living image does the Sphinx represent? Egyptologists think they know the answer to this question. And their theory about who the Sphinx represents and about the age of the Sphinx, their opinion on this matter, is falsely presented as fact in all our textbooks and all our encyclopedias. You look up the Sphinx of Egypt in the Encyclopedia Britannica or any other text of that nature, and you'll be told, without any question mark over the matter, that it was built by the pharaoh Khafre in his own image in around 2500 BC. And yet, the Great Sphinx, like the pyramids, is an entirely anonymous monument. And since it's carved from raw stone, we have no objective way of dating it. What we're dealing with that attribution to Khafre is purely and simply Egyptological opinion. And as Robert and I have gone on with our work into Giza and into the monuments of Giza, we have come to trust Egyptological opinion on these matters less and less. In fact, we don't think that the Egyptological opinion on these matters is right at all. We think the Egyptologists have got it totally and utterly wrong. Perhaps you agree with us, perhaps you don't. But one thing is for sure. It's very bad scholarship that the opinion of scholars should be presented as fact when it isn't fact. Let's see what the Egyptological opinion about the identification of the Sphinx really rests on. One thing it rests on is the face of the Sphinx. Egyptologists tell us that this anonymous monument looks like Khafre. And they say that because there are a few statues of Khafre that have survived which actually have Khafre's name on them. And so they compare the face of the Sphinx with the face of a known statue of Khafre, like this one, which is in the Cairo Museum. And they tell us that the two faces are identical. Well, we don't see it that way. We don't think that the two faces look similar at all. We think they look very different. But don't take our word for it, and don't take the word of Egyptologists for it. The person who really is an authority on faces is somebody like a police forensic artist, somebody who's made a lifetime study of the similarities and differences between faces. And back in the early 1990s, colleagues of ours, led by John Anthony West, brought a police forensic artist to Giza, Lieutenant Frank Domingo of the New York Police Department, with 20 years on the force. And he did a very careful point-by-point identikit comparison of the face of the Sphinx and the face of Khafre. And here are some of his drawings. What he concluded is that he just couldn't understand why Egyptologists were under the impression that the Sphinx looked like Khafre. He saw no resemblance between the two faces at all, and when he compared key angles of the faces, he concluded, he swore an affidavit to this effect, that whoever the great Sphinx's face represents, it certainly does not represent the face of Khafre. The angles of the face are completely different, and he, in fact, concluded that the great Sphinx represented an individual of an entirely different race from Khafre. Okay, so that dismisses the facial similarity view that Egyptologists wish to foist on us. What else do they base their attribution of the Sphinx to Khafre on? They tell us that there are certain texts around Giza which say that the Sphinx was built by Khafre. Let's look briefly into this issue. Let's start with a text that was found at Giza which says very definitely that the Sphinx was not built by Khafre. This is the so-called inventory stela, which stands neglected in a corner of the Cairo Museum today. According to Egyptologists, the inventory stela is a work of fiction. It's an ancient Egyptian novel, which we have to ignore. And why do we have to ignore it? The reason we have to ignore it is because it doesn't fit their theory. The inventory stela tells us that the Sphinx was already standing and already remotely ancient when Khufu, the predecessor of Khafre, came to the throne. And if the inventory stela is correct, then the Egyptologists must be wrong, and Khafre could not have built the Sphinx. But, say the Egyptologists, the inventory stela doesn't date from the same period as the Sphinx, and this is true. The inventory stela dates from about 1,200 years after the orthodox dating for the Sphinx. The orthodox dating for the Sphinx is 2,500 BC, and this stela belongs to the period of 1,200 BC, or perhaps a little bit later. They say, since it's not contemporary with the Sphinx, we don't need to pay attention to it. But yet, with that amazing double standard for which Egyptologists are the world leaders, they base their attribution of the Sphinx to Khafre on another piece of text, which also is not contemporary with the Sphinx, and in which, in fact, dates from the same period as the inventory stela. They base the attribution of the Sphinx to Khafre on this stela, which is called the Dream Stela, and it was put up by Pharaoh Thutmose IV to commemorate a restoration campaign that he undertook on the Sphinx. And on this stela, amongst many other interesting texts which Robert will review, there is one single syllable, Kaf. And because of that single syllable and nothing else, the monument is attributed to Khafre by Egyptologists. They wish us to believe that Thutmose was telling us that Khafre had built the Sphinx, that he was commemorating the building of the Sphinx by Khafre. He might equally well have been telling us that Khafre was an earlier restorer of the Sphinx, or he might not have been referring to Khafre at all, because it's just a single syllable Kaf. So, on such flimsy foundations, perhaps the most important monument of the ancient world has been attributed for the last century or so to a particular pharaoh in a particular epoch. We think that it's vastly, vastly older than that. And I'm not going to go into the details of that. Robert will give all the details in his talk on Keeper of Genesis. But what I will briefly mention is the geology. Between 1991 and 1993, the Sphinx was studied by Professor Robert Schoch of Boston University. a leading geologist and one of the world's recognized specialists in the weathering of limestone. And he was brought to the site by our colleague John Anthony West, who had noticed these curious erosional features on the side of the Sphinx, and particularly prominently on the trench of bedrock out of which the Sphinx is cut, which obviously was made at the same time as the Sphinx. This undulating profile, this scalloped undulating profile, and these vertical fissures that run down through the rock could not have been caused by sand erosion, and they could not have been caused by wind erosion. They could only have been caused by one thing, and that is exposure to a very, very, very long period of heavy rainfall. And Professor Robert Schoch has put his reputation on the line, and he's subsequently been endorsed in this matter by hundreds of fellow geologists and opposed by very few, when he says that what we're looking at on the Sphinx, these, by the way, are later restoration blocks, what we're looking at on the Sphinx and on the surrounding trench is classic precipitation-induced weathering. The problem is that in 2500 BC, when the Sphinx is supposed to have been built, Egypt was as bone dry as it is today. The climate conditions did not exist then, and they have not existed since, to cause this kind of weathering around the Sphinx. The last time that sufficient rains fell in the eastern Sahara to have caused such weathering, when the Sahara Desert was still green, was around the end of the last ice age, focusing us back again towards that period, that mysterious period when the ice age came suddenly to an end, around 12,000 years ago.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
Alrighty, Dirk. Thank you very much. Today, 5 stories. Story number 1 comes to us from 1952, years and years ago. So this is a photo in Barra da Tijuca, Brazil. Okay, these photos captured in Barra da Tijuca, Brazil, May 7th, 1952, have been debated since they originally appeared on an extra feature booklet with the May 52 issue of O Cruzeiro magazine. This object came from the sea with great speed and was viewed for over a minute. It was gray-blue, absolutely silent, and without a trace of smoke or flames. Okay, the video itself 3 minutes, 40-some seconds. There we go. There's our image. Not that big thing. Okay. There we go, right there. Pretty cool, huh? Okay. I'm going to move off from there to the next one. This was up on Mercury. Okay. Now, you know how we keep having images shown to us of buildings on the moon and buildings on Mars, and well, here's Mercury. Okay, here's an object right there, and all these images are available for anyone. They're from the NASA archive. Okay, so anybody can go and check these out for themselves. All you have to do is a willingness to go and look. All right, and so this is what is discovered down there, and wondered what the heck those are. Pretty interesting, though, and you could see there is some shape to it that is not necessarily something that you would think nature might make. It says, I was searching for structures when I found this amazing photo, which seems to have a dozen structures in it. I used my iPhone 5S to redigitize it. Okay. Look at that, pretty interesting. Okay, so he's seeing this as a city, and since Agate crater is 100 kilometers or 62 miles in diameter, we can see that these structures vary from 5 kilometers across to 70 kilometers across. That's some big buildings. Yes, it is. Okay, and the process here says step 1, take the photo and move it to desktop. Step 2, enlarge the photo to 3 to 5 times, or about 150 megabytes. Use a HD camera to look at detail that you would not normally see with the human eye, and then record it. that's it. That's the process. That's on Mercury. Continuing on. This is over Sarasota, Florida, October 17th. Bright, unidentified flying object was seen recorded in the night sky above Sarasota, Florida, Thursday, just the other day. Report says, I filmed this UFO around 8 p.m. in the Sarasota near the Gulf of Mexico with a Canon power shot. I've already ruled out Venus, Antares, Arcturus, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, as I have proven my previous video with the help of the cell phone app. Okay. So there's our object in the sky. We've certainly seen plenty of these before, right? Plain old basic lights. Okay. And just going to keep moving along. That one definitely has some interesting color to it. Okay. Alright. Moving from there to the next story here. It says 100 UFO flyovers reported in Bolivia for the past 2 years. By Scott Corrales. Let's see. It says Paulo Santa Cruz claims the greatest number of sightings took place in Colo and Tipupaya, and especially in the Altiplano areas of the remnants of ancient civilizations. The studies of Bolivian ufologist who is most involved in the subject, Paulo Santa Cruz, nearly 400 unknown objects reported in Bolivian sky the past 2 years. So Santa Cruz heads Protocol Ovi, a 4-hour-long documentary that discusses the phenomena, as well as 2 books on the subject. Throughout the research process, the UFO expert acquired knowledge that he now shares in an interview with Opinion. Question: what are UFOs? Answer: unidentified flying objects are entities or devices that can be of human or non-human provenance, and they say aliens. That is to say, aliens. In the first case, human origin, the most numerous UFO sightings would be cigar or dish shape, created by an elite in Nazi Germany that contracted beings from other world, from which to secured this prestigious technology. They could also be prototypes from the Western powers, the US or UK, which built conventional yet advanced technology. As far as the UFOs of alien origin are concerned, we have tentacled ones and ones that shape like tops or balls hailing from the Chang Shambhala, an enormous extraterrestrial base built by aliens who reached our universe in remote times and have governed us since then. Question: according to your studies, how many UFO sightings occurred in the country? Answer: well, there is no official record. We know that there are thousands of UFO sightings in Bolivia. During the transmission of Protocol Ovi in Bolivia, that is to say, since 2012, we've recorded at least 100 confirmed sightings. 20 of these have some sort of documented support. Furthermore, we find the cases involving UFO crashes in Tariji and Cocamba in the 70s. There is also sightings reported in the highway north of Santa Cruz in the 80s, which had hundreds of thousands of witnesses. Which places in the country do sightings occur most frequently? The answer: the Andean region. Without question, Lake Titicaca and Mount Ilmani, the Bolivian Altiplano, and certain regions of Amazonia. We should also highlight that regions with megalithic and archaeological realms of ancestral cultures are UFO hotspots not only in Bolivia but worldwide. In the specific case of Cochabamba, where do the UFOs manifest most frequently? The answer: most frequently in the areas of Tiquipaya and Quilacolo. These have been promptly documented UFO sightings with an abundance of witnesses. And how do you make a sighting? How do you make sure that the sighting is indeed a UFO, not a weather phenomenon? He says sightings involving vehicles are too notorious to be mistaken for meteorological phenomena. For example, sightings of weather balloons and satellites are unmistakable, since their movement is far too slow and conventional. Sightings of real UFOs are extraordinary due to the swiftness and irregular flight, which cannot be emulated by any man-made device. And the last one: what is the purpose of UFO visits to Earth? Answer: this is troublesome, since the UFO phenomena is the subject of tenacious concealment by the government, precisely because the truth on the alien purpose in this world is being covered up, In Protocol OVNI, we state that supportive of hundreds of documents that aliens have been present since the very origins of mankind, directing the progress of this world over time, as this is a gigantic geo-archetypal experiment with dark intentions. Alright, so there you go. That is the article here by Scott Corrales. Moving on, I've got one more story. And this has to do with an object that is, says is there. This doesn't want to play. Says is there an alien space station orbiting Earth? That is the question. Let's see if we can get this to play this time. There we go. It's 1 minute 11 seconds long. It says LASCO C3 Soho satellite camera. Okay, now we've seen this before. I've shown you this, and this keeps appearing. So the question is this a satellite that keeps going around? Is it orbiting Earth? Good question indeed, because this one keeps showing up. And if you go through the UFO sightings, you'll see this over and over. Alright. And there you go. That is our UFO news for today. Stay tuned. I'll be back with some more news in just a moment.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're losing from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, big brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if I land and two if I see? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
Alrighty. Demand the truth. That's the important part, because you know what? If we don't demand the truth, then all we're going to get is lies. Especially since they keep passing bills and putting out these notices that it's okay to put propaganda on the American people. In other words, to lie to you. Propaganda is just another fancy way of saying lying. Okay, so let's jump over here. I got 3 articles here regarding to a story from the other day. Remember the woman that had this outburst in the house stenographer outburst. So the first one is, you've seen this story here. I'm going to play this video in a moment. As the House was voting on the debt ceiling, the shutdown bill, you understand the woman went up there. Representative Elenia Ross, who was in the chair, gavelled for the order as the woman was taken off the floor. Says the spokeswoman for the Capitol Police says the woman was interviewed and transported to a local hospital for evaluation. Well, let's continue on. What kind of hospital do you think she was sent to? That's right, a mental hospital. Okay, but let me go over here first. Now, if you recall yesterday when I showed you the piece, we played the audio, right? But here is a piece which is playing that same audio, but we see, because we couldn't see exactly that what she was saying was matching up with what, you know, her movements and everything in front of the court, right? But we knew it was from the same place. Well, here's where it took place, in the elevator right outside. So let's check this out.
This is not one nation under God. It never was. Had it been, it would not have been. No. It would not have been. Constitution would not have been written by Freemasons. They go against God. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve two masters. Praise be to God, Lord Jesus Christ.
Okay. As you could see, they didn't want to hear anything of what she had to say. They had to whisk her off. Didn't want to hear this woman talking about corruptions. Okay? Now, here is her, what claims to be an explanation. It's coming from the Atlantic Wire. It says, House stenographer explains her outburst. Diane Reedy. Now, here's the crazy part about this. They call her Diane, but during the course of the this incident, when we heard her in the elevator, they kept referring to either as Molly or Holly. Yet, they're calling here Diane. So is this her real name? Is Holly a nickname? Is Holly or Molly a name for some sort of anagram for something that was going on? I don't know. But anyway, says Diane Reedy, who they're calling her a stenographer for the House of Representatives, managed to steal a bit of the spotlight from Congress's narrow avoidance of financial ruin last night when she took to the mic and gave a short, impassioned speech about the Constitution was written by Freemasons. Now she appears to be feeling better. Her husband, Dan, attributed her outburst to lack of sleep during the hectic negotiations in the legislature. God was preparing her for a vote last night because this was a kind of culmination to everything. This was the big one. Everyone's there, and Diane didn't know what she was sharing. She didn't know when, but she just sensed it in her spirit. Reedy said herself that, I'm glad that I fulfilled God's mission for me. Absolutely. It lifted a tremendous burden. Despite working in the House chamber for 8 years, she said that the toxic events of the past few weeks have disillusioned her about the political process. In addition, Fox News obtained a statement from the couple. Diane wrote, For the past 2.5 weeks, the Holy Spirit has been waking me up in the middle of the night and preparing me, through my reluctance and doubt, to deliver a message in the House chamber, which I did last night. Her husband has denied that she drinks, smokes, or is on any medication. So, there it is. For the past 2.5 weeks, the Holy Spirit has been waking me up in the middle of the night. Okay? There's something going on here which is more than meets the eye. We can't just turn a blind eye and say, nope, this doesn't exist. If we simply reference books of prophecy like the Bible, books from the Apocrypha, on and on and on, through any of our books and religions and so on, we find many, many times that the Holy Spirit is used by God to bring inspiration or a message down to the planet. Okay? This isn't the first time that this has ever happened. This has happened many, many times. So we shouldn't dismiss it. Now here's the crazy part. Okay? There's a lot of you out there who say that you believe in God. There's a lot of, and I believe that you do. There's a lot of you out there that say that you go to a church on a regular basis and that you're good upstanding Christians or Catholics or what have you. Yet, I spoke to some good outstanding Christians and Catholics about this, and I asked them what they thought about it. And I was surprised at the very first answer that these individuals who spent years in church, reading the scriptures, understanding how God works through people, their first reaction was, the lady flipped out. Really? So you can go to church for your whole life, you could study about the prophecies, you could study how Holy Spirit works through people, and the first thing that you can say is, the lady just flipped out? Really? Same question, or same group of people, I have a question for you. Because since there are those of you who so easily determined that this was a flip out rather than an intervention by the Holy Spirit, if you were put down to it, let's say the administration got really, really tyrannical, even more than they are, and they gave you the option that you either had to stop believing in God or continue believing and be put to death. How many of you out there would turn your back on God? Sad to say, I think a number of you would. Sad to say. And I base that on how I hear people turn their back on God when an incident like this happens. When somebody who spent a lifetime going to church can so easily dismiss an activity like this as the woman just flipped out, that person's not paying attention in church. And there's a lot of folks out there. I don't get it. I don't get it. But then again, I know that there's a playbook. Book of Revelation is one of those that is being used. And in that book it talks about, because we just read the book, it talks about God's children being fooled, God's children in denial of what's going on, and so on and so forth. Okay? So many of you, this is par for the course. Many of you are going to find out that this is a separating of the wheat from the chaff. This is an opportunity to find out who really is for God and who isn't. Because there's many out there that give good lip service that they're for God, but when push comes to shove, they're going to jump out of the way so quick because all it was for them was just lip service. Had no real value or merit to it. So what I'm suggesting to you is, if you are one of those individuals who claims, because you've gone to church, claims that you are a godly person, then I'm going to suggest to you that you look at this situation and maybe reach a little deeper. Stretch a little deeper and see if maybe there's something important here that we need to pay attention to rather than dismiss so easily. Okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Now, the news, as we understand and we've talked about many, many times, is a corrupt organization. The mainstream news has no interest in telling you the truth. They find ways to not tell you the truth. And here's an article. CNN exposed. Emmy winning former CNN journalist blows the whistle. CNN is paid by foreign and domestic government agencies for specific content. Alright, which goes on to say, the conservative treehouse. CNN is paid by the U.S. government for reporting on some events and not reporting on others. The Obama administration pays CNN for content control. Let that sink in. The Obama administration pays CNN for content control. Additionally, CNN and CNN International are also paid by foreign banks to avoid stories that are damaging and construct narratives that show them in a better, albeit false light. Amber Lyon is a 3-time Emmy-winning investigative journalist and photographer. She accuses CNN of being fake news. What? We've never heard that before, have we? Except every time we play CNN and I tell you that they're fake news. Back in 2001, March, CNN sent a 4-person team to Bahrain to cover the Arab Spring. Once there, the crew was subject of extreme intimidation amongst other things, but they were able to record some fantastic footage, as Glenn Greenwald of the UK's Guardian writes in his blockbuster article. In the segment, Lynn interviewed activists as they explicitly described their torture at the hands of government forces, while family members recounted their relatives' abrupt disappearances. She spoke with government officials justifying the imprisonment of activists, and the segment featured harrowing video footage of regime forces shooting unarmed demonstrators, along with mass arrests of peaceful protesters. In sum, the early 2011 segment on Bahrain presented one of the starkest reports to date of the brutal repression embraced by the U.S.-backed regime. Despite the accolades and despite the their own journalists and sources endured to produce it, CNN International never broadcast the documentary. Even in the face of the numerous inquiries and complaints from their own employees inside CNN, it continued to refuse to broadcast a program or even provide any explanation for the decision. To date, the documentary has never been aired on CNN International. Having first just returned from Bahrain, Lyons said she saw firsthand these regime claims were lies, and I couldn't believe CNN was making me put what I knew to be government lies into my reporting. What? CNN's lying? The Communist News Network is lying? Oh no. Or is that the CIA News Network? Or is it the same? The Communists and the CIA? It's kind of all, the lines are blurred. It's hard to tell which is which. All we know is they're lying. And guess what? I knew they were lying. You knew they were lying. Most of the alternative media that's out there knows they're lying. A good portion of the population knows they're lying. But this reporter found out the hard way. You see, if she would have been listening to alternative media, she would have known they are lying, and she wouldn't have been so surprised. It's a disconnect. How information does not get to the people over there at these major networks. I mean, the internet's readily available. How many of you are able to, by yourself, sit at your house, at your computer, and access whatever information you need? And then you turn on the news and you find out that CNN doesn't talk about these things, or Fox or MSNBC, and you wonder, how is that possible? Do they not have at least one person in their newsroom that goes on the internet and does a search? Because as you and I know, once you start searching the internet, there's a bevy of information available. There's tons of news stories every day, yet they don't report them. So a disconnect is going on. There's plenty out there. They just don't want to report it. And here is another piece of proof on how they are avoiding telling the truth. Okay? Again, the Obama administration pays CNN for content control. Moving on. Now, we're all hearing the problems about the Obamacare website. So let's do a little bit more poking at this here. Obama administration caught in a blatant software piracy. Oh no, not another lie by our government. Really? It says the script powering healthcare.gov was ripped off from a UK company? No. The Obama administration has been caught red-handed engaged in software piracy. Computer code used in healthcare.gov was stolen and then modified in an effort to conceal the theft from a UK company called Spry Media. To my best knowledge, the story was broken by weeklystandard.com in a blog authored by Gerald Baer. The computer code that was stolen is called Data Tables and is exclusively provided under a GPL v2 license, which requires anyone who uses the software code to keep the copyright notice visible in the code itself. This allows the original author of the code to receive attribution for creating it. An analysis of the code running healthcare.gov reveals that the Obamacare development team maliciously removed the copyright notice and credit attributions from the code while copying and using the rest of the code. In the field of journalism, this would be called plagiarism. In the field of computer software, it's called piracy, according to the U.S. government. On the healthcare.gov, however, the copyright attribution is removed, leaving only the functional code of the script, which is a piracy violation. So now our government is involved with software piracy. All right. We have high integrity in this country. That's why things are so good. Excellent. Excellent. Way to set the example, administration. Way to go, Obama. You the man. You the man. When we want to destroy a country, we go to you because you know what to do. All right, here we go. More takers for a one-way trip to Mars than for Obamacare. And one state spending $12,000 so far to attract each new insurance customer. Wow, that's a pretty good deal. One startup venture recruiting people for a one-way 43 million trip to live on Mars has generated more signatures than all the Obama health insurance plans combined. Just 712 people in Vermont have enrolled in the state's new health insurance exchange, despite $9 million in outreach, advertising, and other PR expenses paid by the federal government. The entire state of Alaska has yet to register a single person, according to Senator Lisa Murkowski. Do you know how many people have signed up? Asked one cheeky blogger. Hint, it's a round number. A CNN medical correspondent has found that the online Obamacare system, which was reportedly first tested just days before its October 1st launch, is now spontaneously deleting some Americans' passwords. The website itself, according to the Weekly Standard, includes preferred source code, but excludes a required copyright notice by its author. With $394 million in contracts in the rearview mirror, the Obama administration has an online white elephant on its hands that hasn't worked as advertised. Crystal Ball, an MSC commentator, best known for a series of racy, naughty Santa photos that circulated the internet in 2010, confessed on Thursday that she was embarrassed to admit that she once worked for the company that created the federal government's Obamacare website. Is the Affordable Health Care Act officially the most dysfunctional and disaster-prone launch in history? Well, Congress, which suddenly has time on its hands after weeks of shutdown and debt Armageddon liar's poker, is about to ask some tough questions. All right, so there's more to the article. Again, you could see problems, but hey, Democrats, all you Obama supporters, how come you haven't signed up for Obamacare yet? What is the problem? We have these states. I mean, there's got to be some Democrats in Alaska, and they say they have no sign-ups. Come on now. I expect every single Obama supporter to be out there. You talked a big game how this was your man. Therefore, you should be out there signing up for his program. And if you're not, then apparently you really aren't a supporter of him that you say you are. Maybe you've never been. Maybe you were just caught up in the color of his skin rather than the content of his character. And now that you found out that he's lied to you, now things are a little different. Now you're in a problem situation because you're stuck. You put someone in office, and actually, let me back up. You didn't put anyone in office. The shadow government did. You just showed your popular support for their choice. It showed that you aren't paying attention and that you were easily guided to pick the candidate and that they wanted you to pick. So good job. Again, I expect every single Democrat that supported Obama to sign up for Obamacare. Zero exceptions. If you supported this man, you should be signing up. Because you gave a lot of people a lot of grief whenever they said this was a problematic man and a problematic administration. So I would expect you to shell out the money and to sign up for this program. And if you can't do it, then Houston, we got a problem because you really don't stand behind what it is you say. Moving on. All right. We hear stories about changes, grids going down. We know about a grid exercise going on November 13th and 14th. This article says how to communicate with others if the grid goes down. Very important thing to know because, well, if it happens, we want to communicate. Are you prepared if a solar flare or a coronal mass ejection shut down the grid? What options would you have? Of course, we can still communicate the old-fashioned way with our neighbors, but if the grid goes down, how will you stay in the loop with everything that is going on around you, especially with those who are awake and aware? Well, many of us live in communities where neighbors are ill-informed or even less prepared for such an event. If the grid shutdown is local, then one option is to get a solar-powered and/or hand-cranked emergency radio, where you can still receive transmissions from nearby or even long-distance stations. You can find these in eBay for under $75. Okay, there's one. Another inexpensive radio option is getting a ham radio for under $40. You go down here, it says, please don't misconstrue this article as fear-mongering in any way. One of the most important lessons we can learn from astrology and cycles of time. In Earth's history, these types of events have happened in the past and most likely will happen again. I would much rather be prepared and never have to use something than to be unprepared and lost. Okay? So, good question. And that brings up a point, you know. I was having a conversation with a friend, and I tell them a lot of stuff, what's going on, and we talk about things, and they said, you know, you say things that scare me. And really made me think, because my intention is not to scare, but to inform. And yet some of these things are so big that for those who really aren't hearing them, all they hear is the fear. But I assure you, my intent is not to scare people. It is to inform you so that you can be aware. I know that there's some things out there that are scary, but we need to be able to look at them, face them, and deal with them. Okay? Don't tell me you're scared, because many of you go to haunted houses and you watch horror movies. So you're able to get past those things without being scared. So face up to the reality of what's going on in the world so you can be prepared about it. Be prepared. Don't be scared. Okay? Moving on. This is a Archangel Michael message for today. Here we go.
It is the function and joy of your angels to help you. Channeled by Ron Head.
October 13th, 2013.
Michael.
We come today to inform you of the extremely potent flow of energies in which you find yourselves at this time. This was forecast and explained by other sources. It is divinely sent, although you will have noticed that your star and the other heavenly bodies are playing their parts. That shows the physical component, you see. But understand that the major portion of what we are speaking of is not around you in a form you will be able to measure, at least not yet. But it is something that many of you can sense and even feel. We assure you that there is no doubt in the minds of any of those who are so gifted. They feel, as well, many changes in their beings and see many changes in their lives. Are they so different? They are different in the sense that they have looked for and accepted what has been given. All of you are equal in many respects, dear family. But you do not all act as the same ways. This is not to place blame in any wise. It is only to ask you, if you have not done so, to open yourselves fully to these possibilities and to accept them with full knowing that you are deserving and loved. True, you will begin from the places you are standing. It cannot be any other way. But your rise will be only the more dramatic and joyful if that place you are standing is perhaps no so wonderful, will it not? And do not be too proud nor too humble, nor too much in fear or guilt to ask for help. Please, it is the function and joy of your angels to help you. It is the joy of all who are on this side to do whatever we can to be of service. And there is around you and within you, at all times, the unconditional love, the energy of your Creator. It is available to you in every moment. Call upon it. Supplication is not what we are talking about, dearest ones. Deserving use of the things of which you are made, that of which you consist is what we mean. It is what we mean when we say, find out who you are. It is the finding of what you are capable of doing that will be the best teacher of that. That is the path upon which you as a family have placed your feet. Walk it joyfully as family now. We are with you each moment until we speak again. Good day, dear ones.
Friends.
Alright, very good. Very, very good, very, very good. Angel message for today. And the message is... No need for compromise. Reach for the stars. You deserve the very best. Alright, that's a good one. No need for compromise. Reach for the stars because you deserve the very best. We all deserve the best. And the best means the truth of what's going on. That's the best that we could have. The truth of the situation down here. So, as we go into our meditation for today, there's something I would just like to address. Humility. See, I believe that the situation that we're in here in the United States of America is because of hubris, excessive pride. The excessive pride that comes from believing that we are an exceptional nation. So exceptional that we are too good to be able to see any bad in our country. Our country is exceptional. Those things don't exist. And because of this hubris, this believing that we are exceptional, we've overlooked the fact that someone like a Hitler could rise in this country. Because many of those exceptional Americans have said, not on my watch, Hitler will never rise in this country. That would never happen here. And yet in the pride and in the hubris, those very same individuals who said that are probably some of the same ones who are caught up in the lie that's going on. Well, Hitler, who goes by the name Obama now, has risen in this country. Many have turned a blind eye, and many are supporting. Many who believe that they are exceptional, and this is an exceptional country. We have to step away from this hubris. We have to step away from this excessive pride and humble ourselves to understand that there's been mistakes made here in this country, and we've made them, and we've poisoned the whole world with these mistakes, and we need to fix them. If we truly want to be exceptional, if we truly want to be, then we need to be exceptional because we are standing on a pillar of truth, and we spread this truth throughout the world. A truth that goes out and heals, as opposed to all of the lies that are poisoning the world and killing the world. That would make us exceptional. But that's a challenge, because it requires people to turn away from their lying ways and to turn away from the hubris and all the other nonsense. I believe we can do it because I know that we were created to be able to do that. It just takes a little effort, and sometimes there's too much pressure, and people don't want to put that effort in to reaching that extra distance spiritually. Well, it's par for the course, my friends. We need to do it. And if you don't, if we don't, we're going to have a problem. So, humility. Very important. Just close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Exhale. Take another deep breath. And exhale again. I want you to imagine yourself walking through life feeling very puffed up and proud. And as you do, I want you to walk past a mirror, and I want you to look in that mirror at yourself. And as you look at yourself in this puffed up, prideful way, you see something false about it. You see that it is misunderstood information that has guided us into this place of being excessively prideful. It's turning away from God that has allowed us to have pride in our own things and forget about that which was created by divine hands. And so as we look at ourselves in this mirror and we see all of this pride, and we really look at it for what it is, we realize the distraction that it is. We realize the poison that it is in our life, and we imagine the rain pouring down on over our heads, and as this rain pours down, it cleanses this pride from ourselves. And as the pride is washed away, we stand in full humility. We realize that humility does not mean being less than one is, but humility is being all that one can be. Because in the state of humility, it allows others to be who they are as well. Steps away from the pride. So as you imagine yourself humbled by life, I want you to imagine looking around at the planets and the stars. And in that humility, understand your place in the cosmos. That you are part of the cosmos, part of the earth, part of the energy of life. And as you allow yourself to be in synchronicity with life and the energy of life, things flow smoothly. So let's imagine a planet without all of this hubris, without this excessive pride running rampant. Let's imagine a planet of people that are humble about who they are and what they do, humble about the accomplishments we create. And in all that humility, I want you to understand that humility does not equal weakness by any sense of the imagination. And there should be nobody that should mistake humility for weakness. For in that they would find that humility and weakness are not the same. So let's imagine going through life inspiring others to be a bit more humble about life, who they are and what they're about. A bit more humble about helping others rather than selfishly only focusing on ourselves. And let's imagine now sending out love all around the world to each and every individual. And that this love goes in and encourages everyone to stand on the pillar of truth. So let the subconscious mind continue on that journey of humility, sending out love into the world. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it. That is our show for the week, my friends. Thank you very, very much for being here. Have a great weekend. Just be safe. Just keep paying attention to things out there. The world's a crazy place. But as long as we keep sending out good vibes into the world, maintain our humility about who and what we are and what we're about, things are going to be okay. We just can't buy all the lies and all the nonsense that's going on. The pillar of truth is in you, my friends. And you'll find it when you go in and you connect with that place where you and God connect on the inside. Do that, you'll be truly amazed at what happens in your life. I'll be back Monday with more news and information. You have an awesome weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.